Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for being part of our program. Here we are together again on the radio. Well, look at this press release. Look at this press release. I love to identify these as press releases because they try to write them like they are news stories. And they send them out on a wire, the way, stories are sent out like on AP or Reuters or whatever. But it's a press release, nonetheless. Bankrate Incorporated. By the way, I don't care if it's a press release. That's a good website, Bankrate. Because it's one you should know about because it's where you find the lowest credit card interest rates. It's where you find the highest rates for CDs, checking accounts, bank accounts where they pay interest. It's a good website to know about mortgage rates. Good place to go. It's one I use all the time. Bankrate Incorporated published the findings of its second annual poll questioning Americans on their emergency savings accounts. Huh? Well, I bet that was the answer for a lot of people. Huh? What are you talking about, dude? Oh, yeah. It says here, Bankrate found that over half of Americans polled, 54%, are, guess what, not equipped with an emergency savings fund. And what they define an emergency savings fund as is this. It's equal to 3 months of living expenses. That's it, 3 months. I thought it was like 6 months or a year. 3 months is what, so get this, 54% of Americans don't have 3 months of expenses in the bank. Wow. Greg McBride, senior financial analyst at Bankrate.com, said half of all Americans might be on the brink of financial disaster. Many people living paycheck to paycheck would not be able to weather a financial storm, such as sudden unemployment or illness. Here are the key findings of the poll, and of course, the first one you will not be surprised at if you're a regular listener to this show. Men are better savers overall, showing savings at 81% versus women at 72%. When it comes to putting aside enough for an emergency savings fund, the gap gets larger. Men total 53%, women only 39%. Men also get more interest on their savings than women, 81% versus 70%. 70% of 18 to 24-year-olds and almost 60% in the 25 to 34-year-old category are not prepared in case of an emergency. Did you hear that? Between 18 and 24, 70% not prepared in case of emergency, like you get hit by a bus or something. 60% in the 25 to 34-year-old category. Is that amazing? That's pretty outrageous when you think about it. Now, this is something I talk about on this program all the time, and it's one of the reasons I have a hard time feeling sorry for you morons out there who decide to spend money on things you can't afford, and then later on when you lose a job, or they cut back your hours, or you have an illness of some kind or some kind of family problem, maybe your parents get sick, or it could be anything. The lease is up on your apartment, and when you look for a new apartment, rents are more than the last time you rented a place. It's hard to feel sorry, though, for people who do things like go out and buy an iPhone when they don't have enough money in the bank in case they got sick. Right? People who buy cars they can't afford. I know somebody who can't afford to buy a BMW, but she just did it. She just went out and did it. Went out and bought a BMW. She couldn't afford to buy any car, but she went out and bought a BMW. So what happens now later if you get sick or you lose your job? Well, I guess you're just SOL. You can go live in your BMW. It's hard for me to feel sorry for people like this. And this whole idea of people living paycheck to paycheck, let's be honest. Why are people living paycheck to paycheck? They are lazy, unmotivated, more interested in impregnating their girlfriend or spending $40,000 on a wedding or things like that than they are in making sure that they are taken care of, not only today, but in case of an emergency. All this talk about the people who got subprime mortgages, I'm getting so tired of these sob stories of people who might lose their homes because they, quote-unquote, got into loans they didn't understand. Whose fault is it that they're that stupid? Whose fault is it that they didn't read what they were signing? Whose fault is it that they thought they just got greedy and they thought they could just buy a house and make a big profit and then spin it off to somebody else? I have a very hard time feeling sorry for any of you morons out there who bought a house and they didn't understand that, you have to pay the mortgage every month or they throw you out. Those of you who didn't understand that when you buy a house, the toilet might overflow and you have to call the plumber and then you have to pay him to fix it. I'm just amazed. And therefore, I have a very hard time feeling sorry for people like you. The first thing you need to do, and I'm telling you from experience because there was a time when I made $160 a week. Don't misunderstand. There was a time when I made less than that. The first thing you need to do is you need to put money in the bank in case of emergency. You have to do that. It's more important than anything else you can possibly do. It's more important than shoes. It's more important than an iPhone. It's more important than having a $40,000 car. It's more important than buying a condo. It's more important than taking expensive vacations. It's the first and foremost thing you have to do. And the second thing you have to do is you have to make sure you try to pay off all your debts and not run big credit card debts. And if you can't afford to pay your credit card balance at the end of the month, you bought too much. You should not be letting credit card balances ride. I have a very hard time feeling sorry for people like you that just go ahead and spend money like drunken sailors, and then later on you can't figure out why you're in such trouble. And all you people out there who file for bankruptcy, look, it's one thing if you had a brain tumor, okay, and you didn't know it was coming. All right, I'll cut you some slack. But those of you who file for bankruptcy because you ran up $40,000 in debt, and you never bothered to think about how you are ever going to pay that back, tough luck. Tough luck if your credit's going to be ruined for the next 10 years. Tough luck if you're going to have to cut down your lifestyle. You're going to have to move to an apartment or a lousy apartment, or you're going to have to live in your car. Tough. Not paying your debts is immoral. It's wrong. If you borrow money, you have to expect to pay it back with interest. And if you can't afford to do that, you're buying something you can't afford. Isn't that simple? Why is that so hard for people to grasp? It's pretty outrageous. The idea that people don't have enough money in case of emergency, they don't have 3 months of expenses put away in the bank, unbelievable. Unbelievable. What, we should have national health care to cover morons like you? We should have, what? We should bail out the subprime mortgage victims out there? Forget it. Just because people are stupid and spend more money than they have or more money than they're going to have, just because people are unmotivated to get more training, get a better job, work harder, just because people like to party and they like to hang out with their girlfriend rather than making money, saving, investing, planning, I should feel sorry for people like you? I don't. I don't. I like when people are ambitious, creative, they work hard. I'm just reading all these stories here in L.A. And by the way, even while I was away on vacation in Italy, I was reading the paper here online. I was reading the L.A. Times, reading all about the negotiations between the 3 big supermarket chains in Southern California and the cashiers and the stock boys. There's a job for somebody who knocked up his girlfriend in high school. I'll tell you right now, that job. Are you kidding me? Anytime, can I tell you something? If you're 37 years old and I see you behind the counter at Ralph's going boop, 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 the running things across the scanner, I know your story, pal. You don't have to tell me your story. I know it. Hello, my name is Beatrice. 11 years at Ralph's. I know your story. Not motivated, no ambition, nothing going on in your life. Either got knocked up by your boyfriend in high school or you knocked up your girlfriend in high school. That's what you did. Then they're all going to go on strike. Ooh, remember the last strike? By the way, they settled. I guess they settled on an agreement of some kind, but the last strike, what did I do? I just went to Trader Joe's and Costco, and I just punted. Who cares? Just pathetic. I just look at people like you, I say, what the hell are you thinking? What are you thinking? How about some school? How about some work? How about getting a degree? How about working harder? How about getting more skills? How about putting money away and saving? How about not knocking somebody up until you've got enough money to cover yourself in case of emergencies, until you have a home, maybe you buy some real estate like a house or a condominium for yourself? How about you not be having babies until that time? How about you not be getting married until that time? How about you plan and save? I just can't feel sorry for people. Every newspaper, the New York Times, the L.A. Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, all these sob stories. I'm seeing these stories about these people who bought houses, and they got mortgages they didn't understand, and now their mortgage payment is doubled, and now they don't know what they're going to do, and they're going to get thrown on the morons. It's Darwinism. You deserve to live in a cardboard box if you did that, for Christ's sake. Idiots. I'm going to bail you out, not in a million years. You deserve to be booted out on your ass. And you know who's going to buy your house after you can't afford to make the payments anymore? Me. I'm going to get it for a fraction of what you paid for it. And I deserve it. I mean, the only reason I have not bought a second home at this point is because the bloodbath has not gotten severe enough yet. The prices haven't dropped far enough. We got another year of real estate prices cratering, and when they do, I've got a big fat down payment ready to buy your house after you get booted out. I'm going to pay a lot less than you paid for it. And it's going to be like a fire sale. You're going to be giving your house away, and guess who's going to be there to pick up the pieces? Me. You think I'm not being fair about this?
Tom Leykis. 1-800-5800-866.
Nice smack on the ass feels good.
The Tom Leykis Show.
It's the Tom Leykis Show. At 1-800-5800-TOM. That's our telephone number. Preston on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hey, Tom, how are you?
Pretty good.
I have a question for you.
All right.
You made a comment about, you don't feel sorry about people that buy these houses and they get in foreclosure. And, I understand where you're coming from that. But, for me, I've worked long and hard to get where I am. I'm in the process of getting my college degree. That was 2 years of hell. Me and my wife combined, we make good money.
Wait, stop. Did you say you worked 2 years to get a college degree?
That's correct.
What college is that?
I went to the ITD Tech, blah, blah.
Well, that's not a college, sir.
Well, it's a technical institute.
That's right. All right, but you did not go to college.
Okay. For me, it's college. And basically, the reason I say that is because it's a piece of paper that says, I know something.
It's just not the same as college. And people who go to trade schools generally don't make as much money as people who go to college.
I disagree.
It's factual. You're factually wrong. I mean, the facts are there.
Well, then maybe I'm the exception to the rule because I make good money for what I do.
How much do you get paid?
I get paid more than the average.
How much?
More than $40,000 a year.
How much?
I don't want to tell you.
You're anonymous.
No, I'm not.
Nobody knows it's you. I don't even know if this is your real name.
But I make more than $40,000 a year.
Well, 41 grand?
No.
You make less than 50, I'll bet.
No.
Well, why don't you say more than 50 if it's more than 50?
Well, it's not more than 50. It's not more than 55. It's not more than 60. But the point is,
what is it? For 45?
Close to that.
All right, so you make under 50. You don't make 50. You make 42?
I make in the ballpark of $50,000 a year.
You just said you make 45. You just
No,
gave
I said I
yourself
make more than 45. The point of the conversation is that between me and my wife, we make enough to qualify for a house. The difference between me and my wife and other people out there is, yeah, we can qualify for the loan, but there's no way we can pay for it. The problem is that people go out there and they take a risk, which is what you have to do in today's society in order to get ahead. Am I right or wrong?
No. Well, put it this way. There are certain reasonable risks and certain unreasonable risks. An unreasonable risk is to buy a house you can't afford.
But the problem is, if you look at these houses, they want $400,000 or $500,000.
That's how much they cost. And if you can't afford it, you shouldn't buy one.
So you have to make $300,000 to buy a house, is what you're telling me.
Well, what I'm telling you is that if you can't afford to buy a house, you get two choices. Rent a house or move to someplace else where you can afford to buy a house that isn't as expensive as Southern California.
That's true, but then you won't make as much money as you do here, and you're still in the same boat.
Again, what I'm trying to tell you is whatever houses cost, that's what they cost. If you want to move to Montana, you can pay $75,000 for a house.
You're right, and you'd be lucky if you make $30,000 a year.
Well, I don't know necessarily that that's true. I can tell you there are places where houses are more affordable than Southern California.
That's true.
The suburbs of St. Louis is a good example. It's more affordable, meaning the amount you get paid is closer to what it costs to buy a house than it is if you live in Southern California.
That's true. And, I agree with you. I don't feel sorry for these people. But
so you could move somewhere else where housing is more affordable.
Right, and I could get another job that pays me $100,000. But neither one of those are going to happen tomorrow.
But whose fault is that?
Nobody.
No, it isn't nobody's. It's yours. If buying a house is important to you, you shouldn't have gone to a trade school. You should have gone to college, and you should have studied to become something that pays $150,000 a year.
See, the problem is, if I had gone to college, I wouldn't have been able to work, and I wouldn't be where I am today. When I was younger, I made a lot of mistakes with my credit, and I've been paying for it for the last 7 years.
And you deserve to be paying for it.
And I know that. It was my mistakes, and I own up to those 100%. But in order to continue to move up in the world, you have to continue working. And I've worked for now 5 years.
But it's again, it's your fault.
It is my fault, and I'm taking ownership for it. I'm not saying
so the reason you can't afford a house is because of you, not because of me, not because of the real estate market, not because of society. It's you. You did it.
Right. I'm not saying that I didn't do it.
So then don't whine about it. This is the price now you are paying for being irresponsible.
But it's nonsense.
It's not nonsense.
A $500,000 house is not worth $500,000.
Yes, a house is worth whatever people will pay for it. That's what the free market is all about.
People are getting ripped off.
Well, they're not, because if I could buy a house for $500,000 and sell it for $510,000, I didn't get ripped off.
I think you did, really.
No, you get ripped off if you buy a house for $500,000 and you sell it for $200,000. Then you got ripped off. But that's not what's happening.
But that is what's going to happen. All these people that are buying these houses, that spend all this money. And
I would recommend not buying a house right now, because the price of houses is going to drop dramatically in the next year or two.
Right. But you say you don't feel sorry for these people. Do you at least feel sympathy for them?
No, I don't. Do I feel sympathy? Do I feel sympathy for people like you who went out and ran your credit cards up to the max and spent more money than you could afford and had no plan on how you were going to pay it all back? No, I don't feel sorry for you at all. No sympathy. No.
Well, good. I don't want you to feel sympathy for me. What I want you to feel.
Well, the other people did the same thing you did, and I don't feel any better about them than I do about you. I don't feel any more sympathy for them than I do about you. They did what you did.
They were trying to get ahead, just like everybody else is.
No. Using your credit card and running up bills you can't afford to pay is not trying to get ahead.
I'm not talking about credit cards. I'm talking about buying a house, trying to secure your future.
No. Many of the people who bought houses did it and agreed that, I have to buy a house because they're going up in value. And if I buy a house for $250,000, it'll be worth $400,000. Then I can sell it. I heard people saying this. I heard them saying it. The fact is, they were in over their heads. They didn't understand the real estate business. They didn't understand the market. They didn't understand mortgages. They had no business doing that.
So because they're less smart than everybody else, then they should be frowned upon?
Not frowned upon.
Stupid people are what make this world great.
What do you mean that what makes this world great? Let me tell you something,
because
pal.
Everybody was smart.
As much money as, for example, in my own case, as much money as I make, I moved to Southern California permanently in 1988. Do you know when I bought a house here?
You bought it for a lot less than you did now.
No. I didn't say how much did I buy it for. I said, do you know how long I waited to buy a house?
How long?
8 years. Now, could I have bought a house and stretched my budget to do it? Sure, I could have, but it would have been stupid. So I waited until I had a 20% down payment, and so I could afford to buy a house. But then there's people like you who let life push you around, and you let life wash over you like a tidal wave. Now you feel like you need to buy a house, but you can't afford one.
I can't afford one because I refuse to pay $400,000 for a house that's not worth $400,000.
Great. Then don't buy one.
So how do you expect people to get ahead then?
Buying a house does not help you to get ahead. And as a matter of fact, you don't make any money buying a house because you have to live in it. And if you sell it, you have to buy another house for the same price. When you buy a house, you're buying a place to live. You're not getting ahead. You can rent a place to live. You don't have to own a house. And when you buy a house, how are you getting ahead by owning a house?
Because then you have something. You have a physical piece of property that you own that is yours.
But you don't own it because most of these morons have no equity in their house. They have no equity in their property. They put no money down. They have negative amortization loans. They don't own anything.
Yeah, but see, in order to understand what all that means, you have to have a degree in real estate.
I don't have a degree in real estate. I don't even have a college degree.
Well, then you must do really good research because
I read a book. I read Money Magazine. See, I did the things you're too lazy to do.
Yeah, probably, because I don't...
All right, so why should I feel sorry for people like you who are busy cranking out children and having girlfriends and all that? Whatever it is you do, running up your credit cards and then not paying them off. I spent my time learning about this stuff, and I waited until the time was right to buy a house, which is what you should do.
Well, when is the time right then?
When you can afford it.
Well, at that rate, then what's the point of buying a house?
So you have a place to live. That's why you buy a house.
So then you're getting ahead, right?
No, you're not getting ahead. You're getting a roof over your head. That's all you're doing. Hey, by the way, you have a place to live now. Yeah. Buying a house doesn't put you any further ahead than not buying a house.
But at least then you own something.
You don't.
Paying towards something.
If you buy a house for $400,000, you've got a $400,000 mortgage. You own nothing. You have no equity in that property. The bank owns the house.
Right, but isn't it better than spending money on rent that you don't even see any return on?
For some people, no. Because guess what? When you own a house, what most people don't figure, and I'm sure at your level of sophistication you haven't figured, is that you're not just paying a mortgage. You have to pay for insurance. You have to pay property taxes. You have to pay maintenance on that house. You want to have a front lawn. You want to have your gardening taken care of. The cost of owning that house is huge, and you don't understand it. And whatever money you make, by the way, you'll never make it, because if your house goes up to $800,000 in value and you decide to cash it and sell it, where are you going to live? You got to buy another house, and then the house next door is $800,000.
But aren't the payments tax deductible?
Are they tax deductible?
The interest is, isn't it?
The interest is it's tax deductible, but again, the amount, it's cost benefit analysis. The amount you spend on maintaining your house and paying taxes and insurance on your house, it is more than you make by deducting the taxes. The reason to buy a house is to have a place to live, not to make money. Because most people I know make very little money owning houses that they live in.
Right.
The people who make money in real estate are people who own other people's houses and charge rent. But the people who live in houses are not making money.
Well, for me, the whole point is not making money. It's just to give me something where I put my money to, and I know, like my car. I spend money on my car every month, and I know sooner or later it will be mine, and I'll own it.
And it's a depreciating asset.
When you rent a car, what are you paying the money for? You're paying somebody else's bill.
Yeah, but guess what? When you buy a car, it loses 20% of its value when you drive it off the lot. By the time you're done paying it off, it's worth a fraction of what it was worth when you bought it.
So isn't a house different? Doesn't a house usually appreciate in value?
Well, it depends. If you buy a house now, it's going to be worth less in a year than it's worth today.
Okay.
So you can end up.
Investing in your
many
future.
of the people listening to me right now owe more on their house than it's worth.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying.
So
You
do not necessarily. And by the way, that's without the taxes and insurance and all the other expenses of owning a house.
Which most of the time you have to pay for now. You have to pay for renter's insurance.
No,
you tack on a couple $100
sir,
and you have your insurance for your house.
Sir, it is not. I own a house. Trust me. Paying the renter's insurance is nothing like insuring a home against fires that we have in Southern California, floods, earthquakes. I pay thousands of dollars every year to insure my house, not a couple of $100, thousands.
Well, yeah, because it's worth more. You want to protect your investment.
You need to insure it. You can't get a mortgage unless your house is insured.
Because they want to protect their investment.
And paying a couple of $100 is not going to get the job done.
Right.
You clearly have never priced that out. By the way, do you know how much property taxes are on a cheap house?
It depends where you live. They typically go up in price.
Well, put it this way. If you live in Los Angeles County, do you know how much, for example, that $500,000 home you're talking about, do you know how much your property taxes would probably be?
I have no clue. I've never
Take a
lived in Los
guess.
Angeles County. What, $4,000?
No. It's closer to $2,500. But still, it's $2,500. Well, it's not bad. The point is, what you don't understand is you're not going to make any money owning a house at all.
I don't care about making money off of it.
So you're not getting ahead by owning a house. You are not getting ahead. This idea of getting ahead, you make absolutely no sense. And this is why you're in the financial position you're in. It's because you don't know what you're talking about. You're not getting ahead. You're not getting ahead.
Yeah, why did you buy a house then?
So I'd have a place to live.
Okay, why didn't you rent?
I bought the house because I wanted to own my own house and do what I want with it. Not because I'm making a fortune on it. I'm not.
But you're getting ahead. You're investing into something that you now own.
No, again, I don't want to pay rent. But the thing is, I can afford it. I can afford to own my own house. When I could not afford to own a house, I didn't. You want to buy a house before you can afford it, and
I can afford a house.
You're under
this mistake. I don't want to pay the $3,000 mortgage.
No, you can't afford it. With the money you make, you cannot afford to buy a house. You can't. You can't.
Can't and won't are two different things. I won't pay it.
But you can't if you want to.
No, I can't.
The fact that you qualify, as you were finding out with all the people getting foreclosed upon now, if you haven't learned this by now, learn it. The fact that they qualify you for a mortgage does not mean you can afford to pay it.
And that's exactly why I never did.
There you go. And that's exactly why you shouldn't, at least not until you can pay 20% down payment on a house.
Right. I understand where you're coming from.
So for a $500,000 house, if you don't have $100,000 prepared to spend on a down payment, forget it.
But see, that's just crazy. $100,000 for a down payment on a house?
That's how much it costs. If you can't afford it, don't buy it.
I mean, at that rate, then nobody can afford a house in California.
That's not true. If nobody could afford a house, the prices would go down. The reason prices go up is because there's so many people like me willing to buy them.
No, it's because there's unscrupulous mortgage companies out there willing to finance people for stuff that they can't afford, and then cash in on it when they can't afford it.
The market takes care of itself. That's what a free market is all about. And if what you say is true, then what will happen, by the way, I believe this will happen, is that when people are foreclosed upon, the price of houses will go down, and that will be your opportunity to buy a house.
And everybody then will lose, though.
But you won't, because you didn't buy a house. The people who will lose are the idiots who bought houses they couldn't afford. And I'm trying to keep you from becoming one of them, for Christ's sake.
Tom Leykis. 1-800-5800-866.
Tom, how many drugs are you on right now?
I'm not sure.
The Tom Leykis Show.
Tom Leykis Show from Hollywood at 1-800-5800-TOM. That's our telephone number. Yeah, can you believe the number of people who don't have an emergency savings account? Like, you know how many money in case they get sick or lose their job? You've got to be kidding me. Angel on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hello, Tom.
Hello, Angel.
Oh, my God. I've been waiting to talk to you for so long.
Here we are.
It's okay. I love you. I've been listening to you for about 7 years now.
Uh-huh.
And you're right. I'm one of those people who doesn't have any money saved up. I've been talking to my husband about that actually for the last 6 months. I'm kind of worried about that because we don't have any savings going on for ourselves.
Well, you can't because you have to keep paying probably the minimum payment on your credit cards.
Actually, I don't have credit cards, but I do have a student loan.
Uh-huh. And what do you do for a living?
I'm in the insurance. I'm in the insurance business.
Does your job relate in any way to the degree you got in college?
No, it does not.
Or why did you go to college to study something that wouldn't help you get a job?
Well, I didn't finish college. That was the other mistake.
Oh, boy. And that's because you met your husband and he was wonderful and you wanted to spend lots of time with him, right?
Yeah, actually, I'm a single mom.
You're a single mom, same difference, okay?
Yeah. So I'm married now, but at the time, I was a single mom going to school.
That wasn't a very good idea, was it?
No, it was not.
Okay, but you thought it was a good idea at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I just couldn't manage the kid and the job and the school.
No, well, people say they can, but they really can't. And I'm not looking to beat you up because you've already been beaten up enough by life. But
Right.
I want the other girls out there who get knocked up in college to hear what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
I got knocked up.
not a good idea, is it?
No, it's not.
I'm sure
it was really bad. It was really hard. To this day, it's really hard. It's easier now that I'm married, and I didn't have another kid thanks to you because I've been listening to you for about 7 years.
Yeah.
So I have a 8-month-old now, so I didn't have another one until I got married.
But you still can't pay for the first kid and all your expenses.
Oh, no.
So was that a good idea?
No, it was not.
So having a second kid was not a good idea either.
Right. No, probably not. It's still a struggle.
Why'd you do it?
Because I was in love, I guess, and I guess just
just because you're in love doesn't mean you've got enough money to have everything you want in life.
No, it doesn't, because we don't have a house, and we're not saving, and we should have done all that planning before we had the kids.
Right. Because now the odds of you getting a house in the next 5 or 10 years are getting slimmer and slimmer, aren't they?
Yes, they are. And I live in California, and the prices are just outrageous, and I'm afraid of buying a house and getting kicked out, just like all those people you're talking about.
Well, yeah, because let's face it, as I say on this program all the time, if you're not prepared to put 20% down on a house, you shouldn't be buying a house.
Yeah, and they have all those offers out there to buy houses with no down payment.
Sure, and those are the people who get kicked out of their houses.
Yeah, I think
Oh, do you see the connection?
I do see it.
You don't
I agree with you. I don't think you should feel sorry for any of those people, any of us who don't save and get ourselves in this mess. You're right.
You know, when these people, you have these stories, these sob stories all the time about people who are getting kicked out of their homes. Whose fault is that?
Their fault, because they didn't think about it. They didn't plan.
They didn't read what they were signing. They didn't bother to take it to an attorney. No. They didn't look at their bank account and to figure out what it would cost to not only pay the mortgage on a house, but the taxes and the insurance and the maintenance on the house.
Right.
Gardening.
Bills on the house are really expensive.
Of course. And then things go wrong. You get a leaky roof every 5 or 10 years. You get leaky windows. You got problems with houses that need to be fixed. You know, people get so used to living in the apartment, and when you get a problem, you call the building manager. You know who the building manager is when you own a house? You.
Yourself.
That's right. You know, you're so used to just calling when the toilet gets clogged and never ever having to pay for it. Mm-hmm. Somebody paid for it. It just wasn't you.
Right. You're absolutely right. You're always right. And I'm just so glad that I found you and I have all the advice that you give out. And that's how I'm going to do my life from now on. I'm going to try to follow it. It's not easy.
I'll tell you what, until your debt is zero, stop having babies, dear. You can't afford that.
Yeah, no, I don't want to have any more until I can afford it.
I mean, any more than you would buy a new car right now, which you can't afford. You can't afford another baby. You just can't. And people don't want to accept the idea that having a baby is like buying a car. I mean, there's a cost involved.
Oh, it's really expensive. The formula alone is so crazy.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
And going to the pediatrician all the time.
Oh, yeah. And even if you have insurance, there are things that are just not covered by the insurance plan.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like food.
I know. And diapers.
Diapers and room in the house for the baby to live.
Yeah.
Baby furniture.
Yeah. All that. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have a house, it's tough because right now I'm in like a one-bedroom apartment, so the baby doesn't have her own room yet, and we have all her stuff in the living room, and it doesn't look nice.
Doesn't look nice, and
No.
when the baby gets older, you got 2 kids in a one-bedroom apartment?
Yeah.
So where do you sleep?
Right. Right.
I mean, these are the things that you didn't think about beforehand.
No.
And again, I'm not doing this to beat you up. I'm
No.
making an example of this because I want the other people listening who think that this is a good idea to go out and have babies when they got no money in the bank.
Right. You just think you can do it as you go along, and it's just not worth it.
Yes, by the way, the more years you wait to buy a house, the less likely it is you'll ever own one.
Right. And I'm already in my 30s, so it's kind of scary.
Right.
It's slipping away.
So you need to pay your debts off, dear.
I know. Thank you, Tom. I love you.
Thank you for the call.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Nice person. She knows that she's made mistakes. At least she's not arrogant like some of the other callers this hour. Jonathan on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hey, Tom. Thank you for having me on the air.
Sure.
Just wanted to let you know that my fiance and I enjoy your show very much. And I think this is a great segue for, promoting that book that you mentioned on the air before, is The Millionaire Next Door.
Yes.
I think it's just a great book for anyone who, is not saving any money right now. And to learn how to do it. My fiance and I both read it in college, and we're living by those rules. We paid off our cars. We don't own a home yet, but we've saved, and we're trying to save for a house right now. So I think it's a great book for that, and I think that all your listeners should listen to or read that book, I should say.
The Millionaire Next Door was a very important book, and I recognize myself in that book.
Yeah.
We're reading about those people because they live below their means. They don't take out big loans or take out car loans. They pay for everything with cash when they can. And there's a lot to be learned in there.
Absolutely. And we've got too many friends that live, well above their means and, own homes that are, $600,000 condos, when they make less than us. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to say thanks again for putting me on the air. And, again, if anyone out there can read that book, that's a great book for them to read.
The Millionaire Next Door by the 2 PhDs, Stanley and Danko. Yep. Quickly. Amelia, hello.
Hi.
Hi.
I've been waiting a long time. How are you?
I'm okay, and I've got 30 seconds, so make it count.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just going to say I completely agree with you. I have a college roommate this past semester, and she's paying for her own school, and she used all the extra money that she had left over after paying tuition on stuff for herself. And I think it goes back to, like, the way that you're raised, because if your parents aren't going to help you out with college, they don't teach you how to, take care of yourself financially. And she's in a really bad spot now. She actually failed out of school this past semester.
Now she's really screwed. And the problem is that many parents don't know how to take care of themselves financially, so they don't know how to teach their own kids. Scary.
The Tom Leykis Show.